there, it's Mitzi. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you what I've been reading because I have not given you an update in quite some time, and so I have a stack of books here. I also received some book mail, so I want to talk about that. So the first thing I want to share with you is some book mail. So I received this wonderful book. I'm really excited about this. I've never heard of it, but Eileen, one of my subscribers, sent me The Ghost Hollow Mystery by Paige Carter. It's an old library book. And isn't that gorgeous? And she said she thought of me when she saw it, so she wanted to send it my way. Thank you so much, because yes, this has my name written all over it. I'm really excited. Again, it is an old school library book, and what I love, I flipped through it. There are some pencil illustrations, black and white illustrations in here, so I'm really excited for that, because I love those kinds of things. When I see these old books, it reminds me of when I was in school. So thank you to Eileen for sending me this book. So these are some of the books that I've been reading over the past few weeks. And I think that I have where I left off last time. If I repeat, I'm sorry. I think that Judy was the first one that I haven't shared with you. Did I bring that book over here? Yes, I have it. Okay. I have just a stack and I don't even know what I'm talking about. So the first book I want to share with you is called Judy by Eve Bennett, and it was published in 1957. And this edition that I have has 192 pages. And one of the things that I loved about it is it reminded me of the Beverly Cleary books. This reads like a Beverly Cleary. It looked like one of those books. I found this, I think, at either a library sale or a thrift store. You know, that's where I shop most often. And of course I had to pick it up because it looked like one of the books I would have enjoyed in middle grade. And for some reason, I am so drawn to those type of books. And I was right. That is what this is like. So if you can get your hands on it, I don't think this is, published anymore. But if you go to library sales and thrift stores like I do, look for this one, because it is very similar to the tween books like 15 and Jean and Johnny and those kind of books by Beverly Cleary. So anyway, this one is by Eve Bennett. And another thing before I forget, when I opened it up, there was this really cute little bookmark inside. Isn't that the cutest thing? And so of course I was excited. So I used this little bookmark as I read it, and I thought this is the kind of little bookmarks I had. When you get the Scholastic or the Troll is the two that we had. We had Troll and we had Scholastic book orders, and you could get if you ordered so many books, or sometimes they'd have specials where you could get a little bookmark or something. So that's what that reminded me of. So of course I'll be using that too. But anyway, this book, Judy, is about a girl named Judy. Let's see, Judy Lansing is her name. And she is a senior in high school, and she's really excited as the school year starts, because she's called to a classroom where she is told that she is going to be on the Searchlight newspaper team. And that's what she's wanted the whole time she's been in high school. So for her senior year, she gets to be one of the journalists on this newspaper for the high school. So she's very excited about that. And then she also meets this wealthy student, Riley Kemp. She's really excited to meet him, and they start dating. So things just look wonderful for her. But she receives a poison pen letter, and so somebody doesn't like her, and so she's thinking about that. And she also starts realizing that Riley might not be the guy for her. So that's what this one is about. Very much like a Beverly Cleary. It was a little more serious because there is a car accident and things in this one. And so it took a little bit more of a serious turn than those light ones by Beverly Cleary, but still it is very similar to that one. And I did enjoy reading it because I had never even heard of Eve Bennett. And so I was excited to find someone else that wrote during that time period, because like I said, this was 1957. So my thoughts were this was a wholesome tween read, and it was very similar to Beverly Cleary. The next one I read was Emily Dickinson's Gardening Life by Marta McDowell, and this was published in 2019. This is a biography, but it is a unique biography. This one is told through the lens of the garden, and I just found it to be so fascinating. At the top it says the plants and places that inspired the iconic poet, and that's exactly what this is. So I first want to say, before I talk about it, thank you to the subscriber who sent this to me for Christmas. This was a wonderful gift, and I used it to kick off my spring reading, and it is just fantastic. So thank you for sending this my way. I absolutely loved every page. There's lots of photographs and illustrations and notes and things from Emily Dickinson's real life. And then you see this through the perspective of the garden. And I just thought it was so interesting. I also love that it helped me better understand Emily Dickinson's poetry, because sometimes I can read it and I'm like, oh, okay, that really is beautiful and inspiring or whatever. And then other times I would read it and be like, what in the world is she talking about? So this really helped me understand her better, because she used her poetry to really communicate her love of nature and her gardening and her flowers and all those things. And so she would write these little poems, but they were really riddles. A lot of them were riddles. And then she would like slip the riddle about the flower curled around a bouquet of the flowers that she was talking about or whatever. So whoever received it, she would send flowers and different little things, pine needles or whatever, to her friends with these little poems attached to them. And so they would have better understood where she was coming from, because a lot of times it would be a riddle about the pine needles or whatever it was, that she was trying to describe in those poems. And so it really helped me better understand where she was coming from. She was really just celebrating her love of nature and the beauty around her. So I really loved that about this book, and it just had a wonderful ending at the end of her life, and how that they took her through the garden one last time. And it was just beautiful. And I just really enjoy this. So if you love gardening like I do, if you enjoy reading biographies about authors and poets, I highly recommend this one, because it was, again, from a different perspective. And so my thoughts were, interesting excerpts of letters, poetry, and illustrations are throughout, as well as it was interesting because it was from the garden's perspective, as if the garden knew her best. And so I really did enjoy this one. The next one I read was The Tall Stranger by D.E. Stevenson. And before I talk about it, I want to talk about the Furrowed Middlebrow books, because Jen from Jen's Reading Life, she just posted a wonderful video a week or two ago about her collection of these books. So go over and check out that video if you are interested in authors like D.E. Stevenson. They are republishing a lot of those type books, and so of course, just like Jen, I'm excited about it. But she has a big collection. She has a lot of these books, and it just excites me that there's someone else, first of all, a kindred spirit, who loves these books too. And so I wanted to mention that in case you'd like those as well, because I know a lot of you enjoy D.E. Stevenson and authors like her. So go over and visit Jen's page if you haven't, and subscribe, because she reads a lot of the same things I read. So if you enjoy what I read, you'll enjoy what Jen reads too. And check out especially that video about this book collection, because it's fantastic, and it just made me excited to read more of these books. So I just wanted to mention that, and I'll leave a link to that in my description box. But anyway, this is The Tall Stranger by D.E. Stevenson. It was published in 1957, and my copy has 222 pages, and this genre I called light romance. So in this one we meet Barbie. Her name's Barbie. Barbie France, who is recovering from an illness. She's been in the hospital, and she hasn't been getting any better, and they're concerned about her. Another doctor comes to visit Barbie with one of Barbie's friends, and he recommends that Barbie might need some time out in the country. And so Barbie goes to stay with some family members in the country. She meets a tall stranger, and the story goes from there. So I highly recommend this. This was delightful. I think that's what I put down. Yeah, I put a little heart on my notes and put delightful. So the things that I enjoyed most about this book were interesting characters. It's a lighthearted romance, and it had an interesting plot. So I do recommend this, but I recommend all of D.E. Stevenson anyway, because she's just one of my favorite writers, and I want to read everything she's ever written. Now, the next one I've read several nonfiction. This is another nonfiction. This is The Question of Canon by Michael J. Kruger, and it was published in 2013. This copy has 210 pages, and it is biblical nonfiction. Now, I read this because Faith, over at Faith, is it Faith in Books? I think's what her channel is. I'll leave a link to her channel below. She is doing a read-through of several Christian nonfiction books on her channel. And so this was the one for January, February, and March, the first quarter. And I read it, but unfortunately, I did not participate at all in Faith's Discord group, and so I've got to do better for the next book, and I need to even find out what that book was. But I did read this and I enjoyed it, but I did not I thought they were going to do something like a live on YouTube, and so I was just going to go over and like participate, make comments there. But they did it on Discord, and she sent me a message about it, but I wasn't even home when they were doing that. So anyway, I did enjoy this. This was informative. It's a discussion of modern scholarship's view on the canon and how they formed the New Testament. I put that it was an interesting look at the canon formation, and I did enjoy this, and I found it informative. And I'm also going to talk about another book very similar to that in just a moment, so I'm not going to say too much more about that till I talk about the other one. Okay, the next one I read was this one, and this is from my Charles Dickens collection. I love these. They're beautiful books. But this is Barnaby Rudge by Charles Dickens, and it was published in 1841. It is historical fiction because it's based on the riots of 1780. So this is historical fiction. Charles Dickens wrote A Tale of Two Cities and Barnaby Rudge, and both of those are historical fiction. And of course, it's a Victorian classic. In this particular book, we meet young Barnaby Rudge, and he becomes involved in these riots, and there's a lot of violent things that happen, and he gets caught up in it. And he's also unraveling a mystery about a dark family secret in the middle of all this. So, my thoughts on this. I'm not sure how I feel about Barnaby Rudge. For me, this is my least favorite so far of Charles Dickens. Now, I have just loved everything else I've read by Charles Dickens. And I've read almost every one. I think I have 3 more maybe Charles Dickens to read, and I'm glad I didn't read this one first, because I probably would have been a little put off by Charles Dickens. I felt like this one was just a little too violent for me. Not that the violence was the problem. It was just, I feel like he got caught up in the riots that he was trying to use as the backdrop of the story, and didn't develop the characters in the way that he does in most of his books. So that's why it wasn't my favorite, because I feel like Charles Dickens is a master at character development, and he has so many characters in his story, and they have so much to contribute, and you learn so much about all these characters, and they just are just so much fun to watch and follow throughout, and then they all come together at the end. This one just didn't play out that same way. It was way too much about the historical event to me, and he kind of was putting the characters in there. So I only gave this one 3 stars. Now, I was generous with the 3 stars, I think, because I do find him interesting. It started with a double murder mystery, and that was fascinating because I was like, okay, Mr. Dickens, where are we going in this story? So at the beginning, I was really invested in it, but then it just turned into the riots, and more about the riots I felt than what I really wanted to know about what had happened and these characters. So anyway, that's my take. Again, everybody reads these books differently, but that was my take on it. I did put that it was an interesting murder mystery. I just felt like that's where I wanted to stay instead of all this other that went on in this story. But I do have like 2 or 3 more, and I'm excited for picking those up. My next one is going to be The Old Curiosity Shop, and I'll probably start that maybe tonight or tomorrow. So I'm excited to get to another one. And I think I need to just brush this one off because, again, Barnaby Rudge just wasn't my favorite. So anyway, let me know if you've read that one and your thoughts on that one too. So back to nonfiction. This is the next one that I read after the Question of Canon that I talked about just a minute ago. This is called The New Testament Documents, Are They Reliable? By F.F. Bruce. It was published in 1943 and it has 149 pages, so it's not very long at all, but it is packed with a lot of details. So this was groundbreaking in its time in the 1940s when it was written, and it remains a classic. And so since I'd read the Question of Canon, I thought I would read this one because it's very similar. It's the same kind of idea on the historical accuracy of the development of the New Testament. And so I really enjoyed this. After reading the Question of Canon, I just felt I needed to read this since it was a classic for the 1940s. And so I went over and read this, and it really just was a great ending to reading the Question of Canon. So I highly recommend this one as well. And then finally, I read Wild Strawberries by Angela Thirkell. This was published in 1934 and it has 275 pages. Isn't that a beautiful copy? I picked this up because of that copy because I wanted something that felt spring or summery, and so this was perfect for that. This is a great summer read if you're looking for something this summer to read. But this is a romantic comedy and it was so much fun. It was delightful. I think I put delightful on here. Yes, I did. Delightful was one of my words. I gave this 5 stars. I think this is going to be one of my favorite books this year. This is my first Angela Thirkell. Now, I have High Rising, which is the first in this series, but this is set at Christmas, and so I didn't get to this past Christmas, so I set it aside and said I'm going to read one that I'm more in the mood for, and that is more of a spring or summery read, and this was just, it hit the spot for me. I loved it. So in this one we have Mary, and so Mary becomes a guest at Aunt Agnes's, and she spends some time there, and she falls for this particular person, and then she realizes maybe he's not the one for her, and then the grandmother is a matchmaker herself, and so there's just all these different characters. They're all quirky, and there's all these fun things going every direction in this household. But it's just a delight to read, and I just found it to be the perfect amount of comedy as well as romance. I wrote down it was delightful, it was lighthearted, and again, I just said it, a perfect blend of romance and comedy. So let me know, what are you reading right now? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.